Alright guys, this is a long playing review for Mountie Mick Deathride on the Amstrad CPC, released in 1987 by Ariolasoft under the Reaktor name and label. And this is a game that I came across many years ago that I'd never heard of, just on a random, I think, suggestion on the 60 Power website. I thought that looks interesting, checked it out, and I love it to bits. Yeah, it has its niggles and annoyances, but this is one of these games that not many people have heard of, and that I'm like super happy to have found for myself and really enjoy playing. Decent loading screen there, and a pretty decent title screen too. And you're going to hear some very nice music throughout the game. We've got some information there on the programmers and stuff like that. We will touch on that in a little bit later. But this game is basically inspired by Stop the Express on the ZX Spectrum and the later arcade game Express Raider, which the latter was released a year earlier than Deathride, but I think Deathride has its own unique take on the genre of basically running across the tops of trains, shooting bad guys, etc. And here we go, and yeah, there you go. Basically, you've got a moving train that you need to keep moving yourself along the top of, shooting bad guys, and get to the end of the train. And thankfully the first one is pretty short, and when we get to the end of the train, there is a like a trolley thing that you have to manoeuvre between this train and the next train, and there's about 10 trains in total. You're armed with a pistol there, with a limited number of bullets, but you can pick up bullets later on in the level. The earlier levels you don't need to worry about your bullets running out so much. And there we go, we've reached the end of the train, and now we're on this trolley thing, and you have to waggle the joystick up and down to keep it moving at a steady pace to make it to the next train. Otherwise it's lose a life and game over, I think. And there we go, coming to train number 2. Now as you reach the next trains, they get longer in length each time, and you can see the length of the train at the very bottom of the screen there, and how many carriages you're going to have to jump between. That suitcase there was a bullet pickup to replenish your stock of bullets. The bad guys can also drop bombs, which you just have to keep a fair distance from. And if you're on the top of the train, watch out for those signals coming over your head there, and you can duck them. You can also pick up bombs in the game and drop them, but I found them to be completely useless. And there's also a move you can do when you duck. He sort of punches out, but it doesn't seem to affect anything on the enemies, so that's completely useless too, by the sounds of it. And Mountie Mick, you can jump fair distance and heights and survive long drops, so don't worry about that. What you can't jump onto though is the centre bits of the carriages, like the little sort of circular spike things in between the carriages. If you fall on them or jump and land on them, you will lose a life. And there we go. So guys, this is pretty much the gameplay. We have some new things that get introduced as the game moves on, such as tunnels and basically train carriages that are leaking gas that you need a gas mask for. Oh look, there's some antlers coming out of the box there, so you have to watch out for the angry moose. Now I really love this game. I think this is a simple little game that's well implemented and is fun to play. As we do get to the later trains, like probably from train 3 or 4 onwards, things do get quite tough, and there are some niggling issues here and there. For example, climbing up ladders and then moving on to the actual train or carriage, whatever, can be a little bit tricky sometimes and a little bit annoying. It's hard to explain without actually you trying it for yourself. Let me just see if we come up to a carriage where we'll climb up. I've just picked up a bomb there. Again, they're pretty much completely useless. Oh, we're in darkness now, so we're in a tunnel. You do have a flashlight, and that has flashlight power, which you can see the bottom left of the heads-up display there. I didn't need to use it there, so I saved it. Now, if you jump on those blue and white carriages there, you will immediately fall down. Imagine them being sort of cylindrical, and you slipping off if you jump on them. Yeah, look, there's a ladder here we're going to have to climb up. So when you're climbing up here, you want to sort of either jump into the carriage and then jump like that, like I did there. But if you press up and keep holding up when you get to the top of the ladder, you'll do like a jump up in the air, but you won't land on the carriage, you'll drop down. And you could end up dying quite easily from that. So you need to, if you want to sort of get onto the carriage from the top of the ladder, just push your way up a little bit by little bit, and as you get to the top, up and left. It's kind of hard to describe, guys, but it's a big annoyance in the game that if you don't get right, you can easily lose a life from. And as we get to the later trains as well, your supply of bullets can run out very, very quickly. And then it becomes a case of surviving without any bullets throughout the rest of the game, because the bullet pickups are few and far between on the later trains. But you can kill enemies by jumping on their heads, essentially. And we will have to use that technique later on quite a bit. But when we come to these yellow carriages here, that's basically the end of the train. And you can just basically walk all the way along this. There we go. So, let's give you some more details, some nerdy details and information. Okay, so yeah, as I said, released in 1987 by Ariolasoft under the name Reaktor. Ariolasoft, according to the good old source of Wikipedia, was a German computer game developer, publisher and distributor who started in 1983 as the software subsidiary of Ariola Records. But no idea why they use the name Reaktor for some releases. I assumed it might be just for the UK market, but no, it was released in France, Germany, etc. under Reaktor 2. So, maybe they thought it sounded a better name than Ariolasoft. But I will say though, guys, there's not that many games by Ariolasoft and Reaktor, but certainly one to check out is the gorgeous looking Out of This World, a stunning like side-scrolling shoot 'em up that I must do a long play review at some point. Oh, okay, sorry. I picked up a gas mask. When you come to these carriages, you see like bubbles floating at the top. That's poisonous gas. So you want to press G on your keyboard to put on your gas mask, and you can see it flashing away there in the heads-up display at the bottom. And you can't remove the gas mask. Don't try and press the G key again to take it off, then to put it back on again. It won't work. But you do need to move quickly, like here, because there's another carriage there which had poisonous gas. The gas mask will eventually run out, like so. Thankfully, no more poisonous gas on this bit on this stretch here. But yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier. This was inspired by Stop the Express on the ZX Spectrum, a very early game when you're jumping across the tops of trains and shooting bad guys and stuff. And of course, there was the arcade game Express Raider. There's a long play review of that on the Amstrad in my channel if you want to go and have a look at that. But yeah, that was released in 1986. This is a 1987 release, so obviously heavily inspired by that and the classic Speccy Stop the Express game. So this was apparently programmed by Time Data Limited. I can't find much to anything about them, except that they may have handled the conversion of Bruce Lee. 8-bit systems in the UK, but no leads on the names of the programmers, sadly. Richmond Gravel, RG on the title screen we saw earlier, is listed as the designer of the game, but of course he's not the programmer. But as for the excellent music we've been hearing throughout, apparently by WE Music, and I struggled initially to find the name of the person behind this, and they did 6 other games both for Ariolasoft and Alligator Software, but that's it. However, with a bit more digging, it turns out it's Ben Daglish, the legendary Ben Daglish, and also Tony Crowther. They joined forces to form WE Music. Seems to be rather short-lived though. Apparently WE Music stands for We Make Use of Sound in Computers. So there you go, a little bit of trivia for you. But I am impressed by the programming of this game, despite some little quirks and niggles. One thing to mention is, on the graphics here guys, is we've got mixed graphics modes. So, you think about the top half of the game is in mode 0. So mode 0 is like extra colours, chunkier pixels, lower resolution. And if you look from the train tracks down to the heads-up display, that's apparently in mode 1. Less colours, higher resolution, more pixels and stuff like that. And then below that, the heads-up display with the score and the lives and all that kind of stuff, that's back in mode 0 again. So it's very unusual to see a game on the Amstrad using multiple modes like that, split like that. So we've got mode 0 at the top, mode 1 sort of in the middle there, and then mode 0 at the bottom. But that does allow us there to have some parallax scrolling on the go. Very nice. It's just a shame that the mountains in the background don't scroll, but we can't have everything. And it just scrolls very smoothly. And the sprites move nice and fluidly, the animations are okay. The actual sprite design themselves is a little bit basic, as are the design of the train carriages and stuff like that, but it's perfectly passable. Oh yes, when we now get to things like cars driving along, and later on boats that will shoot at poor Mountie Mick. Just simply duck and you won't get hit by the bullets. They will shoot 3 bullets out. So it's best to get yourself as forward as possible so you don't hit the back of the screen and die, and just keep ducked throughout. And whilst ducked, you can't get hurt by any of the bad guys as well. Just being careful because we've got about 2 or 3 bad guys bunched up there. But yeah, that mixed mode though is very, very clever, and and they also change the colour palette by the use of rasters. So it's quite an incredible feat of programming here, actually. Controls are nice and responsive as well. No real complaints there. It's just kind of tricky at times, like climbing the ladders and all that kind of stuff. And we've got nice little extras here, like the tunnel as well. I'll show you later with the torch on, but it's not that helpful really. It only gives you like a short beam of light forward. As for the backstory of the game, well, apparently the story goes the McCluskey gang are robbing the Trans-Canadian Express of a large shipment of gold. Mick, the intrepid Mountie, disturbs them and they hightail it down the train. Mick must run after them, avoiding leaking tankers, difficult loads, grenades, the darkness of tunnels, loose mooses, and the gang's hail of bullets. Can he do it in time, or will he have to resort to using the secret lightweight body armour? Ah, yes, that's another thing I haven't mentioned yet. There's apparently a not-so-secret cheat mode. It's actually described in the instruction manual. I had to translate it from German and French because I can't find an English manual online for the game, and this is actually quite a rare game as well. I'll come on to that again in a bit. So basically, if you press the plus key on your keyboard, Note that this may be mapped to a different key in your emulator. This will turn on like body armour, and you can't be shot. And this will make the game a heck of a lot more easier, because it is a tough game. And turn it off with the minus key. But it's right there in the instruction manual, so kind of a not so secret cheat mode really. But yeah guys, this is a very rare game. This is one of the games I'd love to own on disc, because it's one of those games I think I would fire up every now and again for a quick blast. That's the gas mask I just picked up there. I'd love to own this, but I don't think I've ever seen a copy going on eBay for it. So it obviously didn't sell very well, and I guess most of you guys may not have heard of it. It is a game I've covered on live streams. One live stream in the past, I think it was my birthday live stream, where I was playing like games that you might not have heard of that I like. And that was the premise of that stream, and this is one of them. Oh yes, of course, they've got the boat appearing there now. That's a new thing. So what's nice about the game, of course, is like you start seeing new things on each level going forward, so to keep the game interesting, making you want to keep moving forward, doing better each time to see what new thing that might happen. So lots of plus points in the column there for the game. Now, so yes, there's supposedly 9 trains to catch after the first one, so totaling 10 trains to beat the game. But I warn you guys now that after getting past the 10th train, unfortunately, basically the game just loops. So there's no ending to the game where you catch the final bad guy, McCluskey or whatever. That's a real shame. So that will have some minus points in the column for the game in whatever my review is. But yeah, I enjoy this game a heck of a lot, and hopefully I've introduced it to you guys. Some of you may have heard of it and may have played it. A lot of you, I'm guessing, probably wouldn't have. As for any other interesting details, I can't really think of anything else now. I think I've covered most things. I would have liked to know the names of the programmers. If anyone does know, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll make sure I'll try and credit them somewhere, because I think they do deserve credit. Right, I'm starting to run out of bullets now, so I'm resorting at the time being to jump on enemies' heads when I can. It's best to try and jump on an enemy's head, like who's below you on a platform below you, or rather than sort of running into them on the same level than trying to jump on their heads, because you invariably end up getting shot. You can also trick them into falling down onto the bits joining the trains, which will kill themselves on. Obviously they'll kill you too, but they'll kill the bad guys as well, so that's useful to know. And there you go, that was me jumping on 2 bad guys' heads at once. And there's a bullet pickup there. Yeah, I'll just turn the torch on there briefly there. If you saw that, it doesn't really give you much to view there, so I generally don't bother using it. But I still can't work out what you can do with bombs really. You can drop them on the floor, I think by pressing the B key on your keyboard, but it seems little point. Let's put the gas mask on. Sometimes some graphical glitches with the objects on both the HUD and also on the train. I don't know why extra gas masks are appearing there. The bomb killed him. go. And then move out of the way, force him to jump there. Moved out of the way and he landed on the spiky bit between the carriages and died. Now, I am making this game look a lot easier than it actually is. At this point, this game is rock hard, and it's very, very easy to make a mistake and die. And can become quite frustrating. It's a game that is hard to describe on a review of just how frustrating it can be, especially on a long play when I'm making this look quite easy at the moment, and believe me, it's not. It's a game you need to try for yourselves. But just be warned, until you get used to it and the mechanics of the game, you can be in for a very frustrating experience. But it's definitely fun for a quick blast. I always love like scrolling shooting ups anyway, so when it's on the back of a train or a moving train, like Stop the Express and Express Raider, this has really got my interest and attention. And certainly the excellent music makes for a much better playing experience too. Music can make all the difference sometimes in a game. Yep, turn on the gas mask with the letter G on your keyboard. I think it's T for torch. Sadly those controls are not mapped with the joystick functions, like firing down or firing up. It's probably for a good thing, so you might end up accidentally setting them off. But you're going to have to keep a hand near your keyboard, of course. Certainly in an emulator I find it's easier to play on keys rather than a joypad anyway. There's the torch on there, which is pretty much quite useless. Careful here. I'm moving back to jump into the platform. If you get the carrot sprite just inside the carriage there, you can be safe jumping up and left and not worry about sort of hitting the top of the ladder, then falling back down again and then dying from the fall. You've got to jump at the right place into the carriage to do that move. Sometimes it's not always obvious which crates will have the moose inside. Sometimes the moose doesn't spawn until quite late after it being on the screen, which can result in an annoying death at the time, definitely. Often just give yourself a little bit of time to wait and see if one pops out. That boat nearly shot me there, I ducked just in time. But remember, if you're ducked, bullets can't hit you. Oh yes, yes, on this train as well. Did you see that guy that was ducked down right on the bit joining the two carriages? Well, basically what he was doing there, he was like loosening the bolts or whatever. And if you don't kill him quick enough, he will basically release that and release the carriage that you're on from the actual train itself, leaving you stranded and dying. So that's a new thing on level 7 or train 7. And a new thing to contend with. So yeah, again, as you progress through levels, more and newer things happen. That's quite a cool little thing that happens there. Quite annoying though if you get caught out by it, but nice that the programmers have put that in there. Oh yes, other versions of the game on other systems. Well, it appeared on the Commodore 64 and ZX Spectrum, of course, the three major 8-bit home computers of the time in the UK. Now the Commodore 64 version. It plays a touch faster and smoother than the Amstrad, but with even more sort of blockier graphics. Otherwise, there's not much between them. That and the Commodore 64 version and the Amstrad version. It's a question of, do you prefer the SID chip or the AY chip rendition of the excellent music? Both are excellent, just sound have the different sounds really. Personally, I prefer the colours on the Amstrad version, but really that's kind of down to personal preference. Maybe I'm slightly biased. But I will say though that the Commodore 64 version does have a really bad game-breaking bug. With a car, I think it's on actually train number 7, which we're on at the moment, which blocks your progress. Now, it doesn't appear on the Amstrad version at all, but there is a way to glitch through it on the Commodore 64 version that people later discovered years later. I think it's like to keep yourself as far left as possible on the screen, but you can actually end up like stuck inside a box or another train carriage if you're not careful. I think someone has actually done a fix for that and released a new disc version of the game for the Commodore 64, which you can find on the internet. Oh yes, the tunnel sections are also a lot longer on the Commodore version too. They're quite short on the Amstrad one, which is why I don't often bother using the flashlight. Just keep myself safe and ducked. As for the Speccy version, well, it plays very similar to the Amstrad one, but with 4-colour graphics essentially. Sort of black outlined sprites, white background, with splashes of blue and red on the train carriages and stuff like that. It is probably the weaker of the 3 versions. And I think if you have the 48K Speccy, you don't get any music, just sound effects, which are okay, nice and meaty. But one thing I haven't mentioned actually is that we've managed to get sound effects and the music at the same time. Normally in a lot of games of the period, it was either one or the other. You either get music or you get sound effects. To get both is very, very good. Sometimes quite tough to achieve as a programmer. So yeah, basically I think one channel cuts in as the sound effects when needed, but doesn't really seem to harm the music much at all. So very, very well done that. More plus points for that. I can't find any review scores of this game in like the Amstrad magazines of the time. I haven't really looked hard enough, to be honest. It would be nice to have a site that listed all the review scores. Just like the good old days of the CPC Zone website, rest in peace. But I could probably imagine Amstrad Action giving this around the 70 or 80% mark, something like that. But yeah, this was released full price at the time, but sadly I don't think it ever had a budget re-release, which would have given the game a much more lease of life, and perhaps a lot more of you might have heard of it then. Oh dear, looks like we had a dropped frame there. It's quite a long game really, with about sort of 40-50 minutes long. Not sure why that occurred there. Maybe it was me saving a snapshot there, because I have used a couple to get through this game, because it is incredibly tough. I don't think I could do it all in one go, in one sitting. But there you go. A bit of honesty from me. This is a mightily tough game. I did, for those of you who remember me playing this on live stream, I did really struggle with this. I haven't played it in years, and I did swear at the time that I would go back and do a proper playthrough and long play of the game and beat it. And yes, I was determined to. I've come back, and here we are. As I said earlier, guys, this is an incredibly tough game. Incredibly tough game. When you're watching these long plays, it often looks easier than it actually is, because we're doing this without trying to lose a life and all that. But there you go. Actually, really, all I needed to do on this long play was actually get to the end of train 9 and reach train 10, and then we could have called it there. I think I've gone on to do train 10. I don't think I did the whole of train 10 actually, from what I remember. A week or two ago I recorded this, but basically I think it's identical to train 9 and just keeps looping and repeating itself. So essentially, guys, this is the penultimate train. And as you can see from like the little mini map at the bottom there of the train, it's a very, very long train with a lot more carriages. Get rid of as many guys as possible there, bullets, before picking up the bullet to pick up there to replenish my stock. Probably jump on his head here, save a bullet. Didn't quite reach him there. And of course duck down for the boat or the car, and you won't get shot. And turn on the gas mask as always. That was very close there, a bit of a risky move. I thought I'd try and get rid of as many bad guys as possible to make my life easier. This is where I could potentially easily die in the tunnel. So make sure you're not too close to the right edge of the screen. Oh, that enemy didn't fall down between the train there. That was very close, as was that. And there you go, I've lost my first life there. And you can see how difficult the game is there. There's not much room for manoeuvre, with lots of bad guys on the screen, and you've got the angry moose. Alright, thankfully reached the halfway point of the train. Just trying to get those guys to fall down onto the joining bit of the two carriages. Sadly I failed. But I'm not sure if Train 8 introduces anything new that we haven't seen before. Neither does Train 9, I believe. They're just like really super long trains. So yeah, guys, you get 3 spare lives there, and you can't. I don't think you can earn any extra lives on the Amstrad version. Ooh, taking a risk there. Turn the torch on. Just survived. So yeah, guys, I think I use this point here to sum up a bit of a review, because I'm not sure we're seeing anything new on this train. So yeah, guys, a very rare game, very hard to find, not many people have heard of, and it's quite a hidden little surprise and delight, this one, really. And it's always lovely coming across these games on the Amstrad or other 8-bit home computers that you never knew existed, and you fire it up thinking it's not going to be much co-op, and then suddenly, wow, this is actually quite a fun, cool little game. And it is, it's a really good fun game, very simple concept, but like some excellent programming here really, guys, especially with the mixed graphics modes, as we talked about earlier. We've got some fantastic music, the sound effects are nice and meaty and good. And it's better than the average, like, you know, it's horizontally scrolling, shoot 'em up, because, you know, we're fighting on a moving train, we've got to jump between carriages and stuff like that. It adds so much to the game. Yes, it's been done before on Express Raider and Stop the Express, etc. But there's enough unique twists and things added to Mountie Mick to make it not feel like a complete rip-off of those two games. So I like it very much. I think the graphics are kind of cute. They're colourful, and yes, they're a little bit sort of blocky and cartoony, I suppose, and simplistic, but it works very, very well. It plays nicely, controls are nice, smooth and responsive. So overall, very good package. Just got some niggling little issues here and there. Sort of climbing up ladders can be a real problem, but there's ways around it. But it's discovering those ways around it which might sort of trigger you and and put you off playing the game initially. But very, very tough. Some spots like kind of like involve you in like an unavoidable death, really, just how things have spawned and you've got unlucky. So it can be quite frustrating. No bonus lives to pick up and stuff like that. But there is a cheat mode you can turn on, as mentioned earlier, by pressing the plus key on your keyboard, or wherever that is mapped to in your emulator. So overall, guys, I love this game a lot. So as a review score, tempted to give it a very high score, but it is perhaps overly hard and frustrating at times. I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, 8 out of 10. I think that's fair. I think it's definitely like just sneaking into an 80% type game. And I feel that magazines at the time probably would have given it a similar score in the 70 to 80% kind of range, I guess. Here we go, we're coming to the end of the penultimate train, and we're about to hit train 9, which is essentially the final train. Of course, yes, it's going to lose marks for me because it doesn't have an ending to the game, and I really hate that. I mean, you've got this far, you really don't want to play on and on in a further loop, really. You want to hit the end of the game, have like a, I don't know, final boss battle against McCluskey, because it's the McCluskey gang you're fighting against, and you've rescued the gold and all that kind of stuff. Simple like a completion screen, even if it's a bit of text, would have sufficed, and then perhaps let the game carry on looping for if you want to go high score chasing. So games that don't have an ending kind of really bother me a lot, so it does lose marks for that. But anyway, here we are basically on the final train. It's going to take a long time to beat this one. It's the longest train, lots of carriages. Avoid the moose there. I like the touch. I like the touch of like the moose appearing in the game. Considering it's a mountain in Canada. And Canada are famous for their moose and all that kind of stuff, stereotypically anyway. But the moose antlers peering out the top of the train there, or the crates, something that was later kind of used in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I think it was the rhino horn that was coming out the top of the train carriage that young Indiana Jones is fighting on. And then in the Indiana Jones The Last Crusade computer game, there was a whole section jumping between the trains, and yeah, the rhino horn featured in that, coming out the top and spearing poor Indy if he wasn't too careful. But here it is, used 2 years earlier in a humble little Amstrad and Commodore 64 and Speccy game from Reaktor. But I don't think anyone's going to accuse Steven Spielberg and George Lucas of plagiarism. I seriously doubt they would have ever played this to be inspired. Well, running across the rooftops of trains has been a trope in many movies over many years. I think there was even a scene in James Bond, wasn't it? Octopussy in 1983 with James Bond on top of the train. Anyway, you can tell I'm running out of things to say and talk about now. Conserving bullets again here, jumping on the bad guys' heads. Collision detection actually is very good. Actually, in this, I forgot to mention that. You duck down at the right split second before a bullet hits you, you won't get hit. So I feel that's pretty fair. We have a tough one here, because the bad guy was above me, right on the edge of the platform. He's stuck there. He's going to die. He's desperately trying to jump out and escape, but yeah, he's been squished. So yeah, try to conserve bullets as much as possible when jumping on enemies' heads. And you can always pretty much predict when an enemy's going to appear on the edge of the screen there, and I was like pre-firing there. Those guys dropping bombs can be quite annoying to hindering your progress, but they're quite easy to avoid. As long as you're not swamped on screen by other bad guys. And finally we reach the centre of the train, the final train. I think on the Commodore 64 version, if you or one of the bad guys falls down between the trains, there's actually a bit of extra animation where the sprite gets kind of squished. It's sort of quite a grisly death actually. Sadly, yeah, that's missing on the Amstrad version. And for me guys, this music eventually will loop around and start over again, and it plays throughout the game, even on the title screen. It doesn't start to annoy me or bother me, so that's a very good thing, a good sign. I don't know if you guys watching this have got fed up of it already, but it's a pretty catchy tune, it's not too tween and annoying. It does actually kind of suit the game very well. Oh, nice. Two bad guys there killed by their own mistakes and me triggering them. That was probably the final ammo pickup on this train as well, I would guess. So try and jump on their heads as much as possible. I'll probably waste a bullet. I probably could jump on that first bad guy's head there rather than end up having to shoot him. Oh, there's another ammo pickup there, that's nice. So I was completely wrong. But I would guess that's probably the last one. No idea why the box is flashing now. I think that's a bit of a glitch, a graphical glitch, but yeah, we can ignore that. Now that bad guy was probably stuck there, but I didn't want to take the risk. So I dropped down and shot him anyway. Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier that cars and boats shoot 3 bullets. I think it might actually be 2 bullets. But it's worth just keeping ducked and not taking the risk. But yeah, I've literally got like 3 bullets left now. Oh, there was another ammo pickup there. That's pretty nice, but we have to be very careful, conserve bullets, and jump on enemies and trigger them into falling to their own death. But I kind of like that's a feature in the game. That is another thing I actually really like about this game. You can force and fool bad guys into killing themselves, and there's different ways to defeat them, like jumping on their heads, like Super Mario style. My god, we're finally reaching the end of the train. It's like, don't screw this up, Sci-Fi. There's 3 bad guys there. Maybe we can get them to fall to their deaths here. There you go. Sci-Fi skill there, haha. And again, beautiful. Oh, I've got plenty of bullets left anyway. But we can do it again here. Easy does it. There we go. And there we go. After this I was hoping to have like an ending to the game. But sadly not. Another train appears. And then we're technically on train 10. And I believe it's the same length and the same layout of the cabins and carriages. Sadly, so we'll just have a quick blast through level 10, and then we're going to end the long play. So I might be a little bit more careless and haphazard here, just to get through. I'll lose a few lives, and then we'll end the game. We'll see the high score table, and that'll do. Haha, the moose got them both there. But yeah, very cool, fun little blast. I'm you know, every now and again, I think I'm going to boot this up and have a blast through it. And if anyone does that in the disc, the UK disc or whatever, if you fancy ever selling it, feel free to leave a comment and contact me. I'll be very interested in buying this for and owning a real copy of the game. Oh! See how easy it is to make a mistake and accidentally jump? You hadn't really seen that in the long play before. Well, you can jump up into the bad guys, and sometimes that will kill them, like so. And that was actually kind of a technique I learnt a lot later into like actually doing this long play. It's like, wish I'd discovered that earlier. I assumed it would have killed me, but no. There you go. And as always, guys, do me a favour, if you subscribe, make sure you click the bell icon to get more like notifications of actually when I do a video or go live streaming. Do me a favour, press the like and thumbs up on the video. Oh, I died there, and I killed myself again there. So I think I've literally had enough now. But yeah, click that like button, thumbs up button. That will really help me out, guys. Get this video more noticed on the YouTube and Google algorithms, etc. And don't forget to check me out on Facebook and Twitter. Links in the description below for like news and updates and to interact with me more. And if you fancy becoming a patron of mine, I'd super appreciate that, of course, too. And just like where this originated for me, on a live streams pretty much every Friday, either 9 or 10 o'clock UK time, and that's all. I think that's gonna be a very regular thing now. Been live streaming since May 2017. I think I've done every Friday, except maybe 1 or 2 around Christmas or something. So yeah, remember to check me out and see what I'll be live streaming on that Friday evening on my Facebook and Twitter and etc. And there you go, I died on the ladder. That's exactly what I was talking about there. How ladders can be very, very annoying and triggering. Very nice high score table here, I like that a lot. So very, very nicely presented and put together package. So there we go, guys. That was Mountie Mick Deathride. What a great name. And again, you must not miss. Definitely check it out, guys. It might be a bit frustrating, but it's a really good fun blast in short bursts. So there we go, guys. That's an 8 out of 10 from me. Thanks very much, and thank you to all of you who supported me, and I'll see you again very soon. Zypho out and goodbye.
So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click a like below, leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And over that way, there's another video for you to check out. Zypho out.